Hi everyone. Hey Jeff.
Hello. Hey, Luis. How are you? How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
Yes, I'm super excited about this session today. And few people is already there. Hi Victoria. Hi Eric, Matthew. Hi Pierre Alexandre. So welcome to this session today with Jeff Ignacio to talk about like how to build a smarter and cleaner audience when we do outbound. So don't hesitate to ask all your questions, to say when you have a challenge, when you test something that you want, ideas or feedbacks on. And yeah, for the one who doesn't know me, I'm Eloise, community builder and partnerships at La Growth Machine. La Growth Machine is a sales automation tool, and today I'm with Jeff, which is an expert in all bond, let's say, because there is a big major place to content in his strategy, but also expert in outbound. So super interested to have your feedback on what you experimented, Jeff. Every week, I'm doing this kind of session with experts. I'm doing that every week, and all the recording are in the on the playground, which is the community platform of La Growth Machine. I will bring the link in the chat. And yes, I think this is all for the introduction. Jeff, I let you introduce yourself and let the session begin.
All right. Well, pleasure to meet everyone. Thank you for joining, and thank you for inviting me also, Eloise. My name is Jeff Ignacio. I'm the head of revenue operations over at Keystone AI. We're an economic litigation consulting firm as well as an AI development shop for forecasting algorithms. I've been in revenue operations for roughly 13 years now. I'm going to share some examples from my full-time role. I'm also going to share some examples from my side hustle, my fractional setup. So what you'll see today is a combination of different tools across automation workflows, enrichment tools, as well as the growth machine and then AI tools. So with that in mind, please make this interactive, ask questions.
Yes.
Eloise is grateful to send me the questions, but I'll just go ahead and start diving into a presentation that I've prepared for folks. And again, my knowledge, I'm open to sharing anything and everything. So please feel free to ask questions along the way.
Yes.
All right. Thumbs up if this is coming through. Just want to make sure that everyone can see this.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, wonderful. Um, okay, so all right. So I introduced myself full time Keystone AI. That takes the majority of my week. So anything else that I do on top is essentially a solopreneur set of activities, and really only about 5 to 10 hours per week. I provide a couple of key services, coaching, courses, and newsletter. So we'll walk through a couple of use cases for inbound and outbound, but primarily I'll dive first into the inbound side for the side hustle. So what does that look like? I've built up a business over the last 5 years, and it all stems from my presence on LinkedIn. That's where I started. I started posting on LinkedIn about 2020, building what's known as a personal brand. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was really fun to post. And what it led to was a lot of doors opening, and a lot of doors opening for a couple of things. First is consulting, and then second, folks wanted to hear from me regarding how I would approach their personal career. So some coaching offerings. I've also started to develop a newsletter on Substack. Some folks are Beehive folks or ConvertKit, whatever, wherever you develop your newsletter, doesn't matter. But I do monetize a newsletter in two formats. One is a sponsorship, and another is paid subscriptions. We can always talk about newsletters another time, but I always think you want to add value as much as possible. Free newsletter content, and then a paid offering at the end to go a kind of a premium offering. And I put dollar signs to mask how much I actually make income wise from each, but I put the proportions of each one. So if you're very curious, like, could you eventually step away from a full-time job doing a side hustle, I definitely think you could. It would take some time, and it took me about 5 years to build up. The LinkedIn is essentially the source that points to Substack, and the Growth Machine is an instrumental part of that top of funnel for me, particularly to grow my connections on LinkedIn, the followers on LinkedIn, as well as actually getting to know folks, because most folks sign up for a newsletter and they just give you a Gmail. It's all you have. So you really don't have a lot. And instead, what I want to do is segment the audience to identify, are they in my ICP? Are they in my persona? And for me, the ICP is very simple. Folks who are interested in revenue operations, who are earlier in their career or their teams of one. Those are the folks that tend to take my courses, who tend to want to, coach with me. And then eventually, as they start to scale up, they bring me on for a full-time, for a fractional consulting arrangement. The podcast is there on Spotify and on Apple. That one is kind of a shared distribution of thoughts and ideas, same as the Substack. And then the courses are, actual build outs. I don't just talk about tactical items. I go over strategy as well. So RevOps strategy, pricing, packaging, positioning, go-to-market motions, sales capacity modeling. And then I'll obviously talk about, the technical things, like how do you build custom objects in Salesforce? How do you build an AI agent? Like really things that most folks associate with revenue operations. And then the consulting piece. So you can see there's a blend of ICPs. It's primarily RevOps pros. And then for sponsorships, I do reach out to marketing teams. Influencer marketing is really popular this year, 2025. It was less so. It was less popular. And I think folks on LinkedIn kind of like don't really like influence marketing because it feels disingenuous. But if you take the right approach, and my approach is to use the tool, to build a demo, to share it live with folks, to show you how you would actually, do something. I find that does still connect with your audience. So even if it's a partner post or not, just something to think through. Yeah, I'll just pause here, see if anyone has any question. If not, I'll just move forward.
No, this is super clear, and I cannot more agree than the influencer marketing is not about B2C, and now it's really about B2B, and LinkedIn creators are really, could be develop their revenue with influence sponsorship. Question about the Spotify podcast. Is it a show you host alone, or do you also as guests and cross audiences with them?
So the podcast is a host guest format.
Okay.
It's where, there is some work to source guests. The Growth Machine is actually the tool that I use to message folks, right? So looking for director, VP, chief revenue officers, revenue operators, and then asking them to join the podcast, right?
This is a really great use case about finding guests for your podcast or partners.
So behind the scenes, a lot of marketing teams, what they'll do is they'll have a Google sheet, or they'll have an Asana board of names, and then they'll reach out. What you'll actually find is that marketing teams have a hard time securing guests. But if it's me reaching out, I'll have a much higher success rate. Like almost 5 out of 6 folks will say yes to the podcast. But if it's, some demand gen marketer or content writer asking for someone to join, I actually find that their hit rate is like less than 50%.
Great.
Which is crazy, because you would think that folks would want free PR. There's also another thing when you reach out to the enterprise, right? Like most startups want to move up to the enterprise. Enterprise guests are largely restricted from joining podcasts unless they get permission from their marketing teams. There's a lot of forms at these companies that restrict them from speaking on behalf of the company without their authorization.
True.
So this year, LinkedIn sponsorships, coaching, consulting, and then the podcast is a lot of work, but I only do the recording, right? So all the post-production, all the pre-production is done by my sponsors. So luckily I don't have to take on that work.
Great, super clear. I don't think there is questions. guys, if you experiment some content flywheel, just share your experiment and we can chat about that. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So I think since I'm sharing some examples from the side hustle, we'll have to use a lot of analogs for your workflows internally. But let's just walk through. So when someone signs up for the newsletter, I only collect their email address because it's a one title, it's a one object form, right? When you go on a website, you'll see a contact us, you'll see first name, last name, email, company, and maybe some identifiers. Um, I think today with a lot of the new AI tools and automation workflow tools, you should be able to reduce the number of items that you collect on the form. And there's generally this inverse relationship. Fewer items on the form equals increase in form submissions, right? So for those out there who are tooling their inbound and you want to drive, lower form abandons and higher form fills, the fewer items you collect on your form, the easier. So Substack collects the email address and that's it. It's like not a very good setup. So what I do there is I need to then find out, okay, what job title are they and what persona do they fall into, right? So a classic enrichment story. And the reason I do that is if you're in marketing and you work for a SaaS company, you're probably going to be a pretty good target for me personally to reach out to for newsletter sponsorships, to, connect with you on LinkedIn and build a relationship and then ask over time. I don't generally do a lot of strong outbound there, right? So because I do have a lot of strong inbound, but I try to foster relationships over time with certain marketers. Then for folks who are in revenue operations, I tend to connect and follow with them. And I think I'm fairly giving. So a lot of folks will reach out to me and ask for advice. And back in the day, I would take maybe 6 or 7 pick my brain calls a week. And it was exhausting to be quite frank. So, creating a paid offering was one way of cutting out the number of folks reaching out to me, and then also there's a certain number of folks who are willing to pay for a paid offering, which is great because I do think I have a lot of experience to help in certain career cases. Now, if you're looking for coaching and you don't quite fit where I can help, I will turn it away and maybe refer you to somebody else who I think would be a better fit. Also, manually reaching out to each individual on LinkedIn is a surefire way to drop the proverbial ball. You want to be responsive to everyone. So La Growth Machine has been tremendous in actually increasing my connectivity with the folks that connect with me.
And did you use the enrichment in La Growth Machine or another tool? The data enrichment?
So there's a couple of things that I take the La Growth Machine basic, the enrichment for the job titles and the LinkedIn. But then I need to do other couple things. I need to identify if they're like series A, B, or C. So I will have Clay scrape like different sources to tell me their funding. I also have Apollo, an individual license, which they don't always agree, by the way, the enrichment and Apollo, which is striking. And then I'll look for like how big is your revenue operations team, right? So finding lookalikes is going to be key. So then then I can iterate and try to identify like how many people in this company have a revenue operations ish title, and that tells me if you're a team of one or a team of few, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
if you're a team of many. Then I could tell like if you're a good fit or not.
Yeah, that's why we developed a native integration with Clay, so you can do your segmentation in Clay and then just import in one click from Clay to La Growth Machine your leads. And yeah, also I think lookalikes are a great strategy, and well, there is a LGM feature inside LGM to just write a company name or a domain website, and then you have the lookalikes. And also, even in your inbox, like you have someone who is responding positively, the AI understands that, and the lookalike opportunities and pipeline opportunities just started again and propose you that different new leads to contact.
So there's one thing that I really like, which is the custom attribute fields for the leads in the growth machine. We can fill those out. A slight product request to the growth machine engineers. If I can create operators to search the content of the custom attributes, that would be all something that would take it to the next level as well, especially in the workflows.
Yeah. True. Okay.
Okay. So this is the setup for the newsletter, right? So someone signs up for the Substack. It comes in as a Gmail notification, and all I get is this email signed up for the newsletter. Okay, it doesn't give me a lot. So I set up a Zapier to check my Gmail for a specific subject line because the Substack, when someone signs up, the newsletter is always the same. Then I grab the email from that, send it to Clay, do the advanced enrichment, send it to the growth machine, and then enrich it a little further inside the leads setup within the growth machine. And then I'm moving them through what you guys call chat mode. To me, it's an activity diagram of if this, then that, and I could show what that looks like. But it's essentially I visit your profile. It checks if we're already a connection. If we are a connection, I send you a note to say, hey, like a more friendly, like, hey, more colloquial, like we already know each other. Thank you for setting up for the newsletter. If we are not a connection, it'll visit your profile, like a post, then it'll wait a couple days and then send the connection. And then if there's no connection, it'll repeat. So I have this kind of elongated workflow to try to visit your profile and show that I am interested in what you have to say, and then make a connection request. And the good thing about the connection request is you can add a note, and the note is great because you guys have a token feature where you add the add first name or last name. And I try to A/B test things, right? And I'll walk you through that a little bit. I don't know what messaging is going to work. Like, should I be formal or informal? So there's a lot of things that you can experiment. I get roughly about 100 subs per month, net new. So I lose maybe 15 subs a month. So I get net new 115. So I have a lot of opportunities to kind of test the messaging.
Yeah, I think you can test different things. It could be your subject line in an email. It could be the LinkedIn message. It could be even your LinkedIn voice notes that you can A/B test. So this is great. About the LGM chat mode. So the chat mode, just to be clear, is just a feature that splits a long message in LinkedIn in different really quick and short message. So it's mimicking the human behavior. Like on LinkedIn, nobody like just drop a real big message. So with this one, the chat mode, you just write your message, you enable like with a toggle the chat mode, and then your message is splitted in 3-4 messages with 2 seconds or 3 seconds a waiting time in between each message. So really great also to mimic the human behavior.
Yeah, so good point. So I've A/B tested that a little bit. I definitely get more responses when I break up the paragraph. So if I'll send you 2 or 3 sentences, breaking it up into 2 or 3 different messages, 1 line each, is actually better in terms of conversion and response rate because it feels more authentic. It's less. It doesn't seem as canned of a message.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I'll walk you. So before the growth machine, well, first of all, I target a very niche persona, right? Revenue operations is very niche. When you think about a company of, I don't know, 100 people, you might only have 2 revenue operators, right? So you're talking about 2% or 1% of the company being in revenue operations. It's not a very large audience. If I was a marketing influencer or a sales influencer, my audience would be much larger. But the good thing about revenue operators are you just can't BS them, right? Because if you put something that looks fake or inauthentic, these people are very smart. They know how to reverse engineer things. They know how to build things. They're going to call you out right away. So you have to be extremely authentic when you're quote unquote influencing to revenue operators. Just my 2 cents. So when you think about growth of your profile, you're not trying to grow your profile for a vanity metric, right? Vanity metric would be like 80,000 followers, 90,000 followers. I'm like, okay, well, if that's true, I've exceeded the total addressable market of revenue operators because there aren't that many revenue operators around the world. So, what's a reasonable number, right? So if you do addressable market, I think a couple of years ago, it was like 17,000 people on LinkedIn had the job title. But if you add up, all the adjacencies, you get a much larger number, maybe about, 40, 50,000, something along those lines. So here's my follower count. I was averaging about 5 or 6 a day, but then with the Growth Machine, I've doubled that number, and I'm only adding folks who are revenue operators, right? So even though you sign up for my newsletter, if you're in sales or you're an SDR, I'm not connecting with you on LinkedIn outbound, right? I'm not going to reach out to you because you're not my target audience. I will only connect with revenue operators. Now, if you come inbound to me and you're a CRO and you're a head of marketing, yeah, I'll connect with you for sure. But in terms of like the side hustle services, I'm not going to connect with you outbound because LinkedIn does limit you, right? So that's the trick about LinkedIn automation. Don't cross those boundaries, right? You want to operate as safely as possible, and you don't want to push that engine too far because once you cross a red line with LinkedIn, things really slow down for you.
Yeah, that's true. That's super important to have in mind the different limits per day, and to go in your settings also to see and to play with the little cursor to go from non-risky to risky, and staying in the right zone, right? And at La Growth Machine, safety, and especially on LinkedIn, is really important for us. And I think we are the more safe sales automation tool. And there is even a page that I can show or just give in the chat about all what we did to be safe and remain safe. But yeah, limits are super important. We do have a question from Jason. How can we do this from a B2B perspective? Example, it looks at the email to identify the company domain name, then it finds who the account owner is, and then has that rep connect on LinkedIn, etc.
Okay, so you're connecting data from your CRM with the outreach. So in that approach, let me just reread the question. How can we do this from a B2B perspective? Looks at the email to identify the company, domain name, finds who the owner is. Okay, got it. So what I would do here is, let's say, for example, someone comes in the lead, comes off the form. It's going to be scored with some sort of lead scoring algorithm that's going to then tell you if it's a good lead or not. Most folks will use like an MQL setup or not. So it's an MQL or it's not an MQL. If it is an MQL, it comes in and then determine if you have territories or you have rules of engagement that determine that this account or lead is owned by that person. You then need to link up. If you're using Salesforce, you'll need to have a lead to account setup. If you're using HubSpot, contacts are already connected to a company, so you can identify the owner right then and there. Then you should see if that, depending on your rules of engagement again, if it's an outbound or inbound play, which user should have that automation connected to their Growth Machine account. So in this case, I would set up an automation with either a webhook or using like a Clay or Zapier to then add that specific lead into that owner's Growth Machine account, right? And then I would also subsequently send a notification in Slack to ping them to let them know, hey, a new lead came inbound. We're going to add them to the Growth Machine queue for this user. And then depending on which audience is called an audience, which audience you set it up with, the audience will then tell you which campaign to run. And the campaign steps could be something like, visit their profile, connect with them. But in this case, if it's inbound, you want to connect with them right away. You want to connect them with them right away because of speed to lead. Speed to lead is a concept that I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir here. The faster you reach out to them, as soon as they fill out the form, the higher the percentage of conversion. Now, if you're using something like intent, like you have like a RB2B or Channel 99, any of these tools that de-anonymize website traffic, you don't want to reach out to them right away, right? Because it's creepy, first of all. So maybe you have a different setup, which is you start visiting the profile of different folks at the company, just visiting. You're not asking to connect, right? Because what should happen is they should see that you visited their profile, right? LinkedIn has like a couple hours notification after certain activities. So after you visit them in the morning, presumably that day, late in the afternoon, or the following day, they'll get notification that when they go and like who's visited your profile, they'll see you, and hopefully sparks will fly if that's the moment. Okay, I hope I
Great.
answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. This is super, super rich and exhaustive. About social warming, yeah, I think it's so creepy after just visiting a website to just have a message, but building trust and familiarity, liking some post, commenting with yes, with thoughtful content, or even just visiting profiles are some automated let's say flows that like steps that you can add in your workflows. And also about intent, we do have a my favorite, I think, feature in La Growth Machine is that you can import people that like any post or comment any post on LinkedIn, or even register to any LinkedIn event. Could be yours, could be your competitor's one, could be a creator content, and this is super super efficient, I think, to build first trust and connection. Yeah, to import people who already like a post about your topic. So this is about warming people and also qualifying people from the starting point, which is the interest.
Social warming is such a great term. So much better than what I was saying. creeping on folks. That's a great term.
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole idea of establishing a larger LinkedIn presence, again, vanity metrics are not important to me. It's what's the quality of those connections, right? And then the reason why I stress that is because LinkedIn limits who sees your post, right? So if your first connections are or first degree connections are likely to see your post over the next 48 to 72 hours, depending on how well that content is trending. The second is that their second connections, who they're connected to, will likely see it. Back in the day, third degree connections used to see your content, especially if folks were singing your praises. That's not necessarily the case anymore, right? So first and second degree connections is where it's at in terms of punchiness in LinkedIn. And so you are incentivized to grow your following or grow your connections. And again, you are limited to how many connections and followers you can have per day, actually, because the higher that number is, in a short window, it looks like you're using some sort of automation tool or a bot, and you could be soft banned. There's like a difference between soft ban and hard ban. If you go down a Reddit rabbit hole and research this, you'll find all sorts of really interesting concepts around LinkedIn. And then lastly, I try to practice zero inbox for my email. LinkedIn is extremely hard to get the zero inbox. There are some folks you don't want to respond to for sure, right? Like I get hit up with a lot of wealth advisors and accountants. It's like, I don't need that, first of all. And then I get a lot of random people pitching me. Hopefully, I actually see tools like La Growth Machine being a fantastic tool in the long run, for getting to zero LinkedIn inbox, right? Because you think about superhuman for email, I could see La Growth Machine being something very similar for LinkedIn, which is a huge unlock for executives.
Yeah, that's super important to, yeah, because we are a multi-channel tool. So when you have answer in your email, answer in your LinkedIn, even X, because we do also have X, Twitter, automation workflows. Super important to gather all the reps inside the one inbox. So yeah, and even you can qualify more easily, like, oh, this one is interested, this one is not, like it's a wrong tool, or um, and then you can even sync with CRM.
Oh yeah, so we'll get to those same talking points.
Yeah.
Um, so most used feature for me, I used to have to build this in Python with an API access before, but you guys made it a lot easier for me. This is great. So there are folks who like my content and they're not followers on my newsletter, but I want to reach out to them still. So one thing I'll do is I have one flow that tags the custom attribute one field, custom attribute number one. I think you guys have 9 of them. Custom attribute one with the term newsletter, right?
Yeah.
That means they're a newsletter sub. They may not longer be a sub. They may have unsubscribed, and that's totally fine. But they're a sub, meaning I don't want to reach out to them. So then I have a post. Then in the flow, 1 week after I post, what I'll do is I'll go to all the posts from the week before, and I'll drop the links into Growth Machine's comment feature, right? So you drop the LinkedIn URN link, not URL, the URN link, and that then looks at who has liked this specific post. So it drops them into an audience. And then what I want to do is check if they do not have that attribute. If they do not have that attribute, it means that they're not part of my newsletter. And then I ask them to subscribe. It's really that simple, right? So there's a flywheel between me posting on LinkedIn, asking them to subscribe, and then you liking my content on LinkedIn, and then you didn't subscribe, but then I ask you to. So just this nice virtuous flywheel. Um, and I think yeah, it's a great way of doing it. I can see over the long run, maybe there's some sort of Chrome extension that tracks all your LinkedIn posts, grabs the URLs for you, and does it automatically. But it's a small inconvenience to do the copying and pasting.
And I think also to relate to the Jason's question, um, even a lead magnet or valuable content like a white paper or something can also be a great way for B2B's companies, because I'm always thinking to actionable, make this actionable for companies or B2B's activities. And yeah, with the content, not especially a Substack newsletter, but could be a lead magnet, could be a barometer, could be a white paper, or even anything. This is the flywheel is still the same, I think, and everything is about targeting the right people at the right moment of the right channel, right? And to be sure that they have an interest on your topic, giving them some value, and starting with value that you bring to them is really a good starting point, let's say.
Yeah, so I have a bit of a bone to pick, right, with folks on LinkedIn. So you call it a lead magnet, I call it an eye chart, right? So
Yeah.
someone will take like 8 or 9 deliverables and then smash them into one Canva page so that the text is so small that you can't see it, but it looks really rich in information. And then they'll ask you to like jump up and clap your hands in the air, and then I'll send it to you in LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? Or comment whatever, some random phrase. And then what you'll see is that post will just avalanche, right? Because everyone wants that infographic, which I don't know what people are actually going to do with it once they get it, because you actually use it afterwards. But what they've achieved their goal, which is to get a ton of likes on that post. And it just snowballs, right? You'll see like 400, 500, 800 likes on some posts, and then some folks are in the thousands, which is to me is insane, because you think about how many people like a post, it's usually 1 to 2.5%. So if you're getting to 2,000 posts and you work the math backwards, 2.5, it means it's reached like 100,000 people, which is insane reach, right? Which is good, right? Like if you did a CPM on reach, that one post probably generated $3,000 worth of value for the individual. And so same thing. But what I don't like is when you ask me to do something and comment some random phrase, jump up, clap my hands, bark like a dog, whatever, and you don't send me the content, that annoys me. So using this feature is super helpful for that. So
Yeah, totally agree.
yeah, I sound like an old man just complaining about these LinkedIn chat things.
No. But yeah, all the people saying, "Oh, come into a hurt, and you will have my lead magnet in in 2 days." There is a lot, and we have to filter which is really valuable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's keep going. And then I would love to share some actual builds, some examples.
Yeah.
Okay, so A/B testing. Okay, very simple things, right? Tone is not conveyed very well via text, right? So if you're an SDR or seller, you know this. When you write an email, there's something lost in tonality. That's why voice notes are great, because you can hear the tone. But when it's just voice, I don't know what's going to work very well. Hi or hey. In fact, there's some folks when you say hi to them, they're not triggered. When you say hey to them, they get really triggered. So I don't know exactly what's going to work. So I use the A/B testing to write a variety of different iterations of the message, short versus longer messages, and then changing it up to the real chat mode. That breaks up the text either into one big block or breaking it up after every sentence.
Mm.
Here's what I found. I found that hi works best for me in my audience. Formal is better. Longer messages are acceptable if you use real chat mode. And then the shorter messages are always great. The one thing I don't like about LinkedIn messaging is you cannot do a hyperlink, right?
Mm.
So when you share a link, it's just the full URL, right? So if the URL has like UTM parameters or a bunch of serialization on the page slug, that message just looks artificially long because of that URL.
Mm.
Just some complaints to LinkedIn to go fix some of their things.
And super interesting if you has in the audience today some testing you did and what is working for you guys and don't. I see Bart and Katerina typing. Yeah, super curious to also have your feedbacks and your experiment on that. Bart asked, you could use a link shortening service, right? Yeah.
Yes, but that's like an extra step that I don't want to do. Right.
Katerina asked, sorry that I missed this. Can you just say if the chat or full message work better? I think.
So in terms of like a decision tree, right? Short messages often work better than longer. Longer messages work if they're broken up into real chat mode. What I've experienced, like I'll just get, and the metric that I use is reply rate, right? Like, did you actually reply to me? Because I do want to chat with folks, right? Like if you sign up for my newsletter, I want to know why. And I'm always like, the number one question that I will ask is, what are you working on these days, right? Because
Yeah.
there's always something that you're working on, and the reason you came to my newsletter is because you Google search something and you found my newsletter because it has some sort of advice that you could actually use in your workplace. Um, and that's the number one reason why people reach out. It's like, hey, I was like really stuck on something. I came across your newsletter and I found this one little thing that you hadn't like buried in the newsletter that really helped me. I'm like, that's fantastic. What was it? Like, tell me, what was it? I want to
Yeah.
know.
To be honest, for the little story, the real chat mode was like a tier 2 or tier 3 feature. Like, wasn't for us internally at La Growth Machine a big feature, right? And when we released it and we launched it, the public and the clients, the customer, the user were like crazy about this one. And that's true that first we are the only one to do that, and the reply rates increased like crazy for anyone who tests it. And it's even more funny that even the product team in La Growth Machine wasn't like, yeah, this is like a quick win tool and etc. And no, this is a real game changer. For us,
That's fun.
the biggest game changer of the year was the Lookalike. Like, it's like a Notion.io, right? But inside La Growth Machine, and so you don't have to pay like Ocean.io, and it's really powerful because for segmentation with ABM approach, it's really the best. And yeah, the Lookalike is more complex maybe to launch, and not everybody try it right away. But the chat mode was like boom when it came. It's really great feature.
That's funny. I always like hearing product stories like that. It reminds me of the guy who, the janitor at PepsiCo who invented hot Cheetos,
Yeah,
right? Because he would put like pepper in the hot pepper in it because his children,
true.
that's what he ate in the household. Yeah, that's super awesome. I love stories like that. It's not really hard, right? Like from an engineering perspective. If I was an engineer, like this is the easiest thing to build. Like I'll just do a
Yeah.
regex split on a punctuation mark, and then split it into 2 or 3 different messages to the length of the regex split. Super easy. But that the whole point is not technical complexity, right? It's supposed to be usability, right? Like automation, no one wants to be talked to by a robot. And I'll actually walk through an example later of a robot, but no one wants to be talked to by a robot. They want to talk to a real human.
Exactly.
But they're doesn't mean that you can't have a robo gatekeeper, right? Like
Yeah.
if you are, before you had an EA, right? It's like the bane of all SDR's existence is the gatekeeper. And you have to have training how to get around the gatekeeper. They used to have old dirty tactics like, hey, so and so said to call me back, and I'm calling
Hmm.
them back. That's like an old school, like 1980s sales tactic that people still use today, probably. But the gatekeeper is there, right? Like now you're just having robo gatekeepers.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. And we're talking about like growth machine, but yeah, guys, maybe you saw in the notification, but with Jeff, for this exclusive webinar, we gave you 1 month to test like growth machine instead of 14 days. So just don't hesitate to test it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Take advantage of that. Okay, so one thing I like, LinkedIn messaging is really hard to get into your CRM, right?
Yes.
It's extremely hard. So thank you for letting me put the messages in my HubSpot. It's really helpful. This is pretty straightforward, right? Like when I message, so SDR operations, sales operations, one of the things that we look at is activity levels. Um, Activity levels are really easy metrics, like how many calls or emails did I send out? But it misses the nuance, right? The nuance should be reply rate, open rate. Although open rate's now a metric that is a bit hard to trust these days, given where iPhone is with how they look at their emails. Um, Sometimes email services will remove pixels before they'll clean your message before you even open it. Um, but getting these messages inside of your HubSpot instance or your Salesforce instance is really helpful because it really measures the true, well, closer to the true activity, because you still have the SMS, like the texting that goes back and forth. That's not missed. But if you were to grab SMS, LinkedIn, emails, and calls through your sequencers and through your auto dialers, you would have pretty much a 98% view of all of your activity. And as a sales operator, that would tell me the money ball, right? How much activity leads to how many meetings, and how many meetings are scheduled that are then held, and how many of those meetings are then set to become qualified opportunities, and so forth, all the way to win. So those are things that I'm looking for. So super helpful. And then I think people want to see some builds, maybe. Maybe we can get to some demos. Eloise, you want to speak to this slide for a second before I go into like some of the other tools?
No, right. It's the key features of like Growth Machine, but it's better if you did a demo. But as I told you, for the segmentation, you have the lookalike search. Also, you have the LinkedIn intent data, what I told you about, to import people from any people who likes, comment a post, or register to an event. Also, we did talk about waterfall enrichment, which is unlimited and free. The social warming to engage people even before contacting them, right, to build trust and familiarity. The LinkedIn voice message, I think this one is really super great because you can scale LinkedIn voice, and even with the AI, you do have the possibility to the ability to clone your voice, right, to say hi Martin, hi Jeff, hi hello, Eloise. And this is great because it clones your voice to add this little first name. Calls also, because as you say, we are a multi-channel tool, and we do have calls, plus email, plus LinkedIn, plus X. Real chat mode, we already talked about that. And yes, all the key integration we do have, like Clay, Trigify, for intent and enrichment, etc. SenseSpark, Weasley for videos, prospecting, Zapier and Make to make it even more powerful, and native CRM integration with HubSpot and Pipedrive. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into some builds. So the very first thing is lead routing, and I'll walk you through a real life lead routing example. So I built this before HubSpot released their AI integration. But the way this works is we have a very generic lead contact us form on my website. And so folks will submit their form. And then what I'm looking for is trying to identify, like, is this a good fit for my org? And so we look into the text. So you give us your first name, last name, email, and then why you're contacting us, right? And that text is actually where we get a lot of really good information. And so that text I send into basically an LLM. I use OpenAI's ChatGPT in this instance, and then it's identifying what to do with it, right? So you're giving the agent not too much autonomy, right? You're giving it, it's not truly an agent. It's still automation because it's an if this, then that. But it's determining what to do next, right? Like, should it send it over to recruiting? Should it go over to an executive? Should it go over to our sales team? We get a lot of folks asking finance inquiries, right? So all of this tells me that our website needs to be rebuilt, right? But in the interest of time, and we don't do a full website rebuild or a form rebuild, I have to fix the business logic layer, particularly for lead routing. So then and then also folks will pitch to us. Surprisingly, they'll sell to us through our own form, which is like drives me crazy. And then none of the following scenarios, this will be a Slack ping. But you can see this triages probably 95% of leads that come in through the front door and moves them to the right place. Before, all the leads used to come in through all of our go-to-market lead channel, and our sales team started to tune out the Slack channel because there was a lot of junk in there that wasn't relevant to them. So instead, I wanted to put the right mail in the right mailbox, right? So, like, just to use an analogy, and that's what's building a lot of trust and credibility with the team. And you can use an API key to your OpenAI instance to do something very simple like this.
Yeah, that's great. Did you guys already test this kind of workflows? And do you have any question about this kind of flows or AI tools? Jason is typing something. Yeah.
We'll wait for his question to come in. Yeah, so I'll just this type of I think I launched this workflow, and then literally HubSpot launched their OpenAI integration a week later.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
I haven't tested it yet, so I'm assuming this is moot. But most folks don't do lead routing in a tool like Zapier, right? But I did because I needed this type of granularity. Okay, so Jason, which OpenAI will identify which persona that's contact us. Okay, got it. So for my website, the how did you hear about us? What are you looking for? Open text field actually is very rich, right? Most folks fill it out with like a paragraph or two of what they're looking for, which is atypical. And it's mostly because it's like lawyers or folks in supply chain that are reaching out to us, and they're very in depth. Now, you could follow the same workflow that I built for my newsletter, and I'll show you what that flow looks like. So this is like my Clay instance. And I have two flows, one for if you subscribe, and then this one makes me sad is when you unsubscribe. But let's go to the happier one. And what they're doing is the lead will come in, and then I'll use my own API key to a tool called Apollo.io, and it'll grab all the information I need. And then there's one key thing here, which is to do a regular expression formula to determine what your persona is. So if you're in revenue operations or in marketing, I will push you into the growth machine, right? So this is the growth machine Clay integration, and it creates the lead into the growth machine. Then once it's in the growth machine, now I can do all sorts of other things. Like I could look up your most recent LinkedIn post, put together an agent to read through the last 10 to come up with a theme. Be very careful when you do that, because sometimes you'll get weird results. Like I heard this one story of someone attended a funeral recently, right? And somehow the agent just didn't you didn't give the agent guardrails to exclude like personal events from making it a theme. So like, hey, let's turn this tragic event of you going to a funeral into a pitch. Like it's like a terrible thing. Like be very careful. Like your agent should be explicitly told what to do and what not to do, right? Because you could end up with really strange results like that. But then once they go into the growth machine, they'll go into like this workflow. Hold on, let me find the workflow. So this is what the workflow looks like. So they'll come into here. Yeah, so they'll come into here, and I explained this earlier, where it checks if you're a connection or not. And then if you are a connection, it sends one message. And then if you're not a connection, I'm going to visit your profile, add a relation. I'm going to wait. I'm going to check again, wait, check again, wait, check again, and then I'll give up after some point, right? But basically, this is a way to send messages as well as to grow the LinkedIn following, and that's one area that I'm using it for.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So Jason, before we go to Bart questions, Jason says, sorry to clarify, what was OpenAI doing in the prior workflow you showed, which led to that contact going to the various flows based on the persona?
Oh yeah, so you need to give OpenAI a prompt, right? So the prompt may look something like this. You are a sales development rep. You have to give it a role. So if you've never prompt engineered, or you're not getting the right results in your prompt engineering, you definitely want to study the art and the science of prompt engineering, right? I forget what the name of the data scientist is, but he publishes an article on like how to prompt appropriately inside of like OpenAI's website, and I would take that as a first step, and then keep a library of your prompts, right? And then in fact, when you're going back and forth with OpenAI, you definitely want to at the end, once you get the result that you want, after like toggling it and wrestling with it for an hour, ask it to reprompt, like, hey, send me a cleaner prompt based on what we just discussed, and then run that prompt again separately in a new window to see if it gets the result that you were looking for. And that's how you know that you've compiled the right prompt. But in this case, it's coming up with different messages like, hey, is a request to reach our recruiting team, reach one of our executives, reach our finance team, including, and then you want to give it like examples. In this case, this is good enough for me. It actually is very tight in terms of like very low error rate. You want to reach our finance team regarding billing, invoices, RFPs, ACH information. Unsolicited sales message attempting is various. And remember, these models are trained on the open internet. So it has the whole body of the internet minus, I don't know, 3-4 months ago. It's not doing a RAG, right? It's not sourcing off a private database, but this is just training off the model. Now I could give it private knowledge, right? Like instead of doing what's called a ChatGPT conversation, which is what this is, a conversation, I could send it to a ChatGPT assistant, which is very similar to a GPT. A ChatGPT assistant, you can give it files, right? Or you can give it, eventually you'll be able to give it capabilities, which will be a true agent. Then it can look through your files and give you the right level of messaging. So it's all in the prompt, Jason, on how to make sure that you get pretty low error rates on the routing. Also, these LLMs, they tend to be very verbose. So they'll give you a response and it'll be sentences long. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get you to give me a 4 or a 3. Like, give me a number. So you should clarify what the output should be. The output should be just a number, 3 or 4. And
Great.
3 or 4 is the field for the routing for Zapier.
Bart say that he used LGM Brevo Bredix, but he asked if LGM bring in more lead management beyond communication. Yeah, maybe can you clarify your question, Bart, or maybe Jeff, you want to start answering him?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Brevo or Bittrex. I'm assuming each of these tools have a very specific purpose. I'll just say this. The Holy Grail is like a super app. The super app is something that has multiple capabilities, one tool to rule them all. Maybe that's doable, but software's been around for over 20 years, the SaaS at least, and I don't think we'll get to a state of a super app. And what you'll get instead is a bunch of startups competing around the edges, and getting to a level where there's feature parity, and that differentiation allows certain startups to rise. And yeah, I don't think you'll get there personally. I think you'll innovate. I always say innovate at the edges, scale at the core, something I learned at AWS. And there are certain capabilities that you want to scale within your core systems, your system of record, like a Salesforce for deals, and lead management in like your marketing automation platform. Then the enrichment, some tools try to do enrichment, right? Like HubSpot has Breeze. When they bought Clearbit, Salesforce doesn't have anything that's native. And so, okay, so Bart, you're clarifying. Perfect. So LGM's limits to email, LinkedIn, X, cover email campaigns, lead scoring, deal management. Yeah, you'll probably want to yell and scream at the leg growth machine that you love what they're doing, but you want more. And maybe they'll get to the point where they're doing that. Even in my own experience working with my engineering teams, when I'm synthesizing like product feedback in win-loss reviews or in gong calls, for example, my engineers will tell me like, you're giving me like 101 features. We can only build 10, right? Like this quarter, right? So there's a prioritization roadmap that happens at the product level, which, if you're in revenue operations, you're listening to this, I would coach you to do the same, like have a revenue operations roadmap as well.
Yeah, that's true. And because our positioning is about sales automation, email campaigns, like, and yeah, lead scoring and deal management could be more future feature that can be added to the roadmap, right? Email campaigns, it's more and more far away, I think, from the first positioning and promise. After saying that, we do have this website. I will just give you here. You have Bart, the feedback.lagrowthmachine.com, where you can give any feedback and also suggest any information, suggest any idea about the product. But just to give you an idea, I will be more fighting with the product team to add WhatsApp than doing email campaigns. We do have a lot of things to do and to add in the sales automation scope. And yeah.
That's interesting. WhatsApp is surprisingly a larger channel for go-to-market than I expected. Like Sales Yacht Club, for example, is like one of the largest like communities out there run by Jesse, and I'm just extremely surprised that, like, I'm really terrible at managing my WhatsApp. But I've lately noticed, I'm like, I need to step up my WhatsApp game because I see a lot of folks building communities there instead of Slack, which is very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and because also they launched the business part. There is a really like place to go on, and for me, WhatsApp should be the one of the next channel we can use, always splitting the personal and the professional accounts, and the business thing. It's not to be spammy on your phone, absolutely not. But I do think that WhatsApp is building smart and B2B and business feeders that really can fit with this lack of channel, and yeah. um, Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Bart, with the enthusiasm about WhatsApp. So just to say that I don't know if it's WhatsApp or the next feature, but yeah, a lot of things has to be done also. And yeah, go to suggest any idea in the feedback that I just gave. Question of Douglas, and then we just end. What is the best way to not burn out your email accounts? I know there are action limits on LGM, on 45 emails a day to be safe. How do I create multiple email accounts? I can go with that one. So we just released the inbox rotation feeder, Douglas. So you do have this possibility to just rotate your email accounts. But yeah, be careful to not just spray and spam all the your leads and your TAM.
Yeah, I'm not an email expert by any means, but I know I've heard different tactics like email warming, rotations, things like that.
Deliverability setup. Yeah, you do have to follow really the best practice we shared in La Growth Machine. And to be honest, I think that we do have in the playground, which is the community platform, a big thread about all the best practice to have a good deliverability. So yeah, I just give you the link in the chat if you want to look at this community platform. It's also the place you will have the recording of this session. And I think if it's good for you guys, we can close the session. Thank you
Awesome.
very much, Jeff, for all your content, your super advices. Thank you. And thank you very much to all the people in the chat and the question.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.